I want to now move into the next piece of how to love your wife and working with her as a team in parenting your children. And so we're going to play a clip. It's called Lead Me. So this song is by Sanctus Real. And we're not going to watch the music video. We're going to watch the clip again of him and his wife explaining why they wrote this song and kind of something about their marriage. And then they'll play a little bit of the song as well. But it's a powerful clip about them working on their marriage together. So here we go. Okay, so that clip called Lead Me by Sanctus Real, really beautiful. I encourage you to go and look it up at some other time and just listen to it, because it's, as he says, the cry of a wife for her husband to lead her, cries of children to be led by their dad. He says, everything seems good for my wife, but I know she wants me to lead her. Lead me with strong hands. Stand up when I can't. Don't leave me hungry for love. Show me you're willing to fight, that I'm still the love of your life. I know we call this our home, but I still feel alone. Women desperately need you men to be collaborators and leaders with them. Our world screams that men can't be the head of her wife. That's chauvinistic. That's male domination. But guess what? That's the way God set this whole thing up. God set it up that you are the head of your wife and the head of your family. We've got to understand that rightly, though. It's not at all a domination. It has nothing to do with what I get or how I dominate. It has everything to do with service and leadership, and that you as the head are the first one to serve and to lay down your life and your will in sacrifice. Ephesians 5, St. Paul says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Men, how did Christ love the church? He loved her right there. He loved her on the cross. What Jesus did for us on the cross is what St. Paul says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. In other words, you have to be willing to lay down your life for her. I just read a quote this just as I was preparing for this, and it said, men when they're dating, they say they'll lay down their lives for their wives. And then when they're married, they won't lay down the newspaper for them. Man, when you step forward in faith, the whole family changes. When the woman leads, good things happen, but it's not the same. Women can say something over and over again, and the kids won't necessarily listen right away. But if their dad says something, they're more likely to listen. Women are better at assessing human needs. Women are the heart of the body. They teach children unconditional love, comfort, and mercy. They're an image of the heart of God, and they're absolutely essential to the family. They're the heart of the family. And so one of the greatest ways you can be a good dad is by loving your wife. That's one of the most powerful ways, actually, you can love your children, is by loving your wife, by setting that example for them. So I want to ask you, when was the last time you told your wife that she was special? When was the last time you did that in front of your kids? You affirmed your wife that she was special to you in front of your kids. If couples put half as much effort into marriage that they put into courtship, then marriages in general will be a lot better in our world. But most couples stop courting when they get married. Men, I want to actually ask you a question. I want hands raised on this. How many of you have initiated a date night with your wife so far in 2017? Raise your hands. How many of you have initiated a date night? Okay, great. I'm actually impressed with how many hands did go up. That's good. I want to see all those hands go up within the next month. Initiate a date night with your wife. You've got to be the one who takes initiative and not just assume everything's good in the relationship. Your wife needs you to initiate relationship. And after your wife, you also need to initiate relationship with your children. Even things like initiating saying, kids, let's go play in the backyard, hit the baseball. Let's go fishing. Let's just sit and talk. Let's spend time playing board games together. Let's go get ice cream together. Take one child and say, we're going to go and get a donut or an ice cream cone. And that special time with them. Initiate that with them. Dads, also defend your wives from your kids talking back. A friend of mine told me a story that she said her kids, there's a particular time for each of her boys that probably was only once, but she said for each boy, at one point they were talking back to me as the mom, and dad went up to that boy, and he said he grabbed him by the throat and he put him against the wall. And he said to him, "Don't you dare talk to your mother like that. I don't know why you ever thought you could, but don't ever let it happen again. Do you understand?" Of course, the boy's like, "Yes, I understand." Right? But you teach your sons how to treat women by the way you treat your wife and by the way that you let them treat your wife. And so they learn how to respect women through family life. And if for whatever reason you have children that are but not with a woman that you're married to, and for whatever reason, there's lots of different cases where that might be the case, you're still a father because she's a mother. And I want to just make this kind of a little point, is that no matter what your situation, you need to show some kind of honor to your children's mother. Even if there's a situation where there's maybe a bad divorce or something like that, and you don't even talk, your children's mother needs to be shown some kind of honor, because the way you treat her or talk about her will form them, especially your sons. And it'll show your daughters the value they have and that they will have one day as women. And especially though, if you are married, you have to show great honor and love to your wives. The final thing I want to address quickly here tonight is the plague of pornography. This is one of the most destructive things for family life, and so I just want to say a word about it tonight if we're talking about fatherhood. I think it's the number one thing destroying families in the modern world. It is, first of all, it's infidelity to your wife. Secondly, it hurts your daughters and how you think of them. Jason Evert writes a quote from a girl he knew, he said, this girl said, "I used to look up to my dad. Now I can't even look at my dad when I found out what he was doing." It also hurts your sons because it gives them permission to use women. Matt Fradd, he talks about when he was growing up, his dad found him with a small stash of softcore porn magazines that he had hidden in his room. And he said his dad just looked at him and he said, "Son, don't let your mother see these." That was permission. That was not saying this is not okay. That was permission. You can do this. Just don't let your mother see. I think it's probably impossible in our culture today to conquer pornography without God's help, because it is so accessible on every electronic device that we have. Men, we've got to be praying about this, and we've got to get into confession if we need to about this. If you don't do anything else tonight, but if you need to work on this, work on this. It's the number one thing, I think, to save marriages and to save families. So let me kind of summarize some things and give a few more thoughts about, just really quickly, about being a good father. The most important thing you can do with your family, besides providing for their physical needs, love them. Make sure they experience your love. A great book is The Love Languages, the 5 love languages. I'll say a little bit more about it at the end when I talk about books. But really important, you love your family. Spend time with them. Do activities with them. Don't just watch TV with them. That's hardly a together event. But doing things intentionally with them. Pray with them and pray for them. Initiate family prayer. Don't make your wife initiate prayer. You initiate prayer in the family. Let them see you praying by yourself, especially if a boy sees his dad on his knees praying. That's going to really form his heart. Pope John Paul II writes about this, how his dad, he woke up in the middle of the night, and he would see his dad in the middle of the night kneeling by his bed praying. And he said, that was the first seminary I went to, teaching me how to know and love and understand God, was seeing my dad pray. Talk about morals with your kids and be proactive. Obviously, if you just wait for them to come to you with questions, they're probably not going to come. The culture is going to teach them everything wrong. You've got to be proactive in teaching them right. Physically touch them, hug them, kiss them. If they're older, just pat them on the back, give them a great handshake. Wrestle with them, things like that, physically touching them. Show happiness and praise for their accomplishments. When you tuck them into bed, linger a bit and make small talk with them. And love your wife, because this is one of the most important things you can do for your children. Devin Schadt, he writes, "Society needs fatherhood to survive. If you want to change society, change the family. If you want to change the family, change the father. And so if you want to change the world, change the father. Because he changes the family, And that changes the culture, and that changes the world. I want to conclude with a story. The story is told by a priest. He says, I was a chaplain at a boys' prep high school and heard that a boy named Jack would be coming to the school next year. His secretary asked if I would come over to visit with his dad before the school year. His dad was a very successful businessman making 9 figures a year, so the priest was expecting him to say he wanted to give a donation to the school or something. But he met with him, and Mr. Smith said, as you know, my boy will be attending high school at your school next year, and I know he'll need a lot of attention and have a lot of questions as he grows and develops. And I just don't have the time to spend with him that he needs. I'm wondering, Father, if you would be willing to be like a foster father to him. The priest was surprised and taken back and said, well, that's your place, sir. He replied, I know, I'm just too busy with my business. So many people I manage, and I can't give all the attention that he needs. Will you please do this for me? The priest reluctantly said, okay. So the priest would talk to Jack in the halls. He would go to his basketball games and would even talk to him about girls that he liked. Then when Jack was a senior, his birthday was coming up, and the priest asked him what he would be doing for his birthday. Jack replied, my dad is throwing a huge party for me on the top floor of his business tower, inviting all my classmates. He said he's going to get me something big for my birthday. Oh, that's great, Jack, the priest said. Yeah, Jack said, he's going to get me a Porsche for my birthday. Wow, said the priest, that's great, Jack. Jack, is that what you want for your birthday? Jack replied, actually, I would rather ask my dad to just spend a day with me. The priest cautiously said, well, your dad is very busy, Jack, but he does love you in his own way. Jack replied, I know, but I'm his only child. Don't you think I could at least ask him? Well, I suppose you could, said the priest. So the next Monday, the priest waited for Jack, and when he saw him in the hall, he asked him, so how was your birthday, Jack? Oh, it was great. All my class was there. It was a lot of fun. Then the priest asked, did you get what you wanted for your birthday? And Jack just looked sad and held up the keys to his new Porsche. And the priest knew what he meant. Many years later now, Jack is married and has a family of several boys. He also became a very successful businessman. And when his father died, he inherited all his money as well. Recently, the priest was invited over to dinner, and he noticed a picture frame in the kitchen that had 2 pictures on it side by side. The first was a picture of Jack with his boys and his arms around them. The other picture next to it was a picture of the new red Porsche that Jack had received for his 18th birthday. There was one word written under the picture and engraved in gold letters. It said, remember. Men, perhaps the greatest thing you can do is give someone your time. Give your children your time. Give your wife your time. Make God the center of your life, and make your family a very close second to that. Every one of you has what it takes to be a great father. There is no one on earth who has more power over the identity of your sons and your daughters than you do. And so men, get out there and be the great fathers that God created you to be. Thank you.